Hi sweet peas, it's Shaaba. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for clicking on another Thursday video. Firstly, thank you for the amazing discussion that's taken place on the flag video. I think it's so cool to share opinions. It's exactly what these kind of platforms are for, to challenge things, to voice opinions, and to see how best to go forward, you know? So in light of that as well, today, I wanted to just be super vulnerable, super honest, and talk through some of the principles and context of the Black Lives Matter movement. Although I'm a person of colour, I'm clearly not a black person, and I feel incredibly conflicted on many things. Not that Black Lives Matter, of course I 100% fully support that movement. So in this video, it's not a video essay per se, I wanted to talk about some of the concepts that should seem very basic to everybody, but also lead up to the ones that are more complex and a bit of a mindfuck even to me. I don't have the answers, I don't have the experience of a black person. I do have the experiences of a person of colour, which is similar but not at all the same thing, and so I wanted to talk about this publicly to hear your thoughts and expressions too, so that you and I can learn more and be and do better. Before I launch into this discussion, ramble, thoughts on concepts, I wanted to firstly make it very, very clear that if I say something or I'm doing something that is wrong, I would like you to call me out on it. I do everything in my power to make this a safe space, a welcoming space for the LGBT+ community, but also for everybody of all different minorities. I want you to feel like you are welcome here, and I want you to feel that if you are a member of the black community and I am saying something that offends you or it just isn't right, please tell me about it, because part of being a better ally to anyone, and lesson number one, is to listen and see things from an objective point of view. In my last video, for example, I spoke about my experiences as a brown person of colour, and I would expect someone who was not a person of colour, who was commenting on things, who may be saying something wrong, to listen and appreciate my point of view as someone who's being represented. The exact same thing goes for here, so please pop downstairs, let's have this discussion, let's make sure we are all educating ourselves and doing things to progress society as a unified force. So for those of you who might not know, and I'd be very, very shocked if there was anyone in that group, a man called George Floyd passed away recently and he was murdered. He was killed by a police officer. He was in a shop trying to pay with something that a shop owner thought was counterfeit. It wasn't counterfeit. In investigating the matter, George Floyd was put down to the ground, his throat was knelt on for 8 minutes, and he passed away, despite his many attempts to tell people that he couldn't breathe. Thankfully, millions of people have signed petitions to ensure that the 4 police officers involved in this incident, more than an incident, completely avoidable, absurd, outrageous tragedy, that these 4 people are brought down and George is given the justice that he deserves. We can't take away the fact that he's lost his entire life and the pain that is being felt and experienced by not just George's immediate family, but black people all around the world, particularly in the US. But it's something, and George's passing, although one of many, sadly, many that do not make it to front page news. For some reason, George's death has sparked a revolution that is being felt all around the world. Protests are happening, we're attending, we're donating, because this isn't right. It's not been right for tens of hundreds of years, and if you can't see that, you are blind. There are 2 important matters in relation to George's passing that I want to make abundantly clear. Number 1, in the arrest and attempt of custody of George, that should not have happened. Nobody should be kneeling on anyone's throat, let alone for 8 minutes, causing death. But number 2, and it's a point that's less spoken about, George should not have even been interacting with the police. If that was a white person, the validity of the check being paid with would not have been questioned. The police would not have been called, and that there lies the problem. This is what black people are fighting for, and this is why we all need to stand with them, because injustice goes beyond what we can see. Being racist and racism can come in many different forms. It's not just spurting derogatory slurs. Most recently, as we've seen in the Black Lives Matter movement, it's staying silent. That is not enough anymore. You have to be outraged. I cannot contemplate how anyone cannot feel outraged in here. Racism comes in the form of unconscious bias, which is something that I have spoken about before on this channel, because I feel like it's something that people still don't understand. So if you in any way resonate with the terms that all lives matter, that white privilege does not exist, or that the police in the US are not doing bad things at the moment, you really need to watch this video and you really need to understand that you are not being attacked for being white, but that black people are being attacked for being black. And it's therefore very important that any position of power that we have from being non-black is used to help support them. The hashtag, the movement, is encapsulated by 3 words: Black Lives Matter. And what that is trying to say is that black people matter. It's not trying to say that other people, brown people, Asian people, white people, don't matter. It's to say that black lives do. There's a contradictory hashtag going around at the moment called All Lives Matter, and people are using this to justify their racism. This is why All Lives Matter is wrong. Presumably you live in a building, right? Some form of house. Imagine on your street there were 10 houses and one of those houses was on fire. That house matters. Sure, your house also matters, but right now that house matters the most because it's the family in that house that are going to lose all of their belongings, have absolutely nowhere to live, and need our support and attention right now. That is why it is very stupid when people say that all lives matter, because of course all lives matter, but all lives are not feared for when you're stopped by a police for some random reason. Only black lives result in death in that way. All lives are not feared for when, like George, you're going to the shop trying to buy something and you end up being suffocated to death. All lives don't experience that. Black lives do, which is why it's so important that the Black Lives Matter statement is used. White privilege exists, and not just white privilege, but right now, non-black privilege exists. People, often white people, are stating that they too have difficult lives, and that is why white privilege is not a thing. If you are one of these people, you are misunderstanding the concept of white privilege. White privilege does not mean that your life is hunky-dory because you are white. What it means is that you do not experience the discrimination that people of colour, in this context particularly black people, experience because of the colour of your skin. Take 2 people in the exact same scenario. They live in identical houses, they have identical jobs. Perhaps both have just been fired. Perhaps both are divorced. Perhaps both have issues with drugs or substance abuse or many other things. The white person going outside does not need to worry that if they're stopped by a police, there's a chance that they could die. A black person going outside does have that worry. That is white privilege. It's not saying that your life is incredible. It's saying that there are some things that the black person here will experience that you do not. That is white privilege. I don't know how it can be made any clearer. And anybody who's heard this explanation and is still trying to state that white privilege is not a thing is clearly just intending to be an asshole and is not worth anyone's time. When people are talking about an echo chamber online, what they're talking about is the social media platforms and what you see. There is something called an algorithm. It's basically a fancy word for clever math that social media companies like Twitter, like Facebook, like Instagram use to make sure that you stay on the platform. They want your business because by being there, you see more ads. And the more you see ads, the more likely you are to click on ads. The more you click on ads, the more money they make. It's as simple as that. And the way that they keep you on is by showing you content that they think that you would like. Technology is scary. Yes, it is a thing that they can do using numbers by seeing what you've already liked and engaged with and showing you more of that kind of content. If you have a Twitter account in particular, or any social media for that matter, I want you to have a think about what you see. If you're not seeing anything to do with the protests or Black Lives Matter, to me that would indicate that you're not doing enough. I implore you to read about it, to find out what's happening in the world and to help support it in any way you can, regardless of the colour of your skin. If you are looking at your Twitter feed or whatever kind of feed and what you're seeing is black people looting, black people rioting, statistics that show that more white people are being killed than black people, you are interacting with racist content. And so as a result, you will receive and consume racist content that will only further cause you to affirm your negative views. This is a circle and it needs to be broken. Don't try and justify it. Don't ignore it. Change it. Find the content, find the activists, find the people that are speaking to support black people and interact with that on your social media. If when you look at your screens you're seeing white people looting or white people pretending to be boarding up their shops, if you're seeing the military abuse peaceful protesters, you are seeing the truth, you are seeing reality, and maybe you are seeing a whole range of those things, in which case that is also okay. But please make sure that what you are seeing is the accurate picture and you're not just taking one biased view that is being presented to you and amplifying that to the world, because that is not okay. To put it very crass, words are powerful, They are a weapon, they are a tool. To be called a racist is not a nice thing, and the definition of what it means to be racist has changed contextually now to what it was a week ago. Racism used to mean to be actively derogatory towards people of a different colour. I'm sure that everybody here would agree that racist jokes, the KKK, lynching, blackface, hate crimes, using the N-word, using the P-word, these are all things that are overtly racist. Actively, outwardly, in your face, racist. The definition of racism has expanded to include covert racism. Imagine an iceberg. What you see is the tip. Underneath is so much more. Imagine a tree. What you see is the bark and the top, but underneath are so many large roots. And these bits that you don't necessarily see all the time are the fundamental problems and the hardest to change. That's why it's important that we can tackle these covert, underground, secret, seemingly racist traits. We need to make sure that they don't exist, to make sure that this place is truly just and equal, and the only way that we can do that is not to stay silent, but to be anti-racist. You have to be acting out. You have to be doing something more than not saying anything at all. Covert racism includes calling the police on black people when you wouldn't do it to a white person. Covert racism is white silence. It's pretending that colour, skin colour, doesn't exist. It's political ideologies like Make America Great Again. It's listening to racist jokes and not going, hey, you know what? That's not okay. Covert racism is having the very selfish ideological stance that all lives matter and the, hey, but what about me? It's not about you right now. It's about black people. Covert racism is saying, oh, you're very articulate when you speak to a person of colour because you don't expect them to be. And covert racism doesn't always have racist intent. You may not in your mind think that you're being racist, but that is what unconscious bias is. It's happening unconsciously because sadly we've been brought up in a society that tells us that black people and people of colour are dumb, are not good, are more likely to be criminals, and that is simply not the case. And it's our responsibility as anti-racist people to make sure that we're combating these things that we may not consciously realise we have. It's okay to go, hey, I was wrong. You know what? I do that. That's bad. I'm going to make a conscious effort to not do that anymore. That is how you be anti-racist, and that is what we all need to be right now. You will have the view that the police, particularly in the US, are not bad right now if the news that you are watching and the Twitter feed and social media feeds that you are consuming are racist leaning. You may be seeing footage of looters, but what you are not seeing is the footage of white people looting and black people trying to stop them. You will see footage of black people violently protesting, but what you are not seeing is the hundreds and hundreds of people who are peacefully protesting but are still having police forces throw tear gas at them directly into their eyes without any just cause whatsoever. What you're not seeing is the white people pushing people to the side after having over 70 accounts of forceful misconduct. That is not okay. In no job will you be given over 70 chances to not do something that is wrong and still be able to keep it. This is the problem with the system as a whole. You might be seeing white people boarding up their business fronts. What you're not seeing is white people driving up to other people and pretending that it's their business and using drills to take photos for Instagram and be like, oh, woe me, look at what I'm having to do, when it is completely fake. You might see black people beaten up on the ground, but say it's okay because look, they have a gun in their hands. Look, they have a stick, a baton in their hands. What you're not seeing is that these people are being beaten down and hurt, and then police officers are taking these weapons and forcing them into their hands to ensure that they have their prints and giving them some sort of fake justification that their violence was necessary. It is disgusting. It is outrageous. It is ridiculous. And it is on my timeline all the time, as it's on the timeline of other people who support black rights. I'm not saying that there are black people who are looting and causing violent acts, but the minority should not speak for the majority. The majority of the police force, however, are not acting in equal interest, and that is the problem. You see what you choose to see because of the views that you actively support. Change it. I am a brown person, but as a brown person, I do not matter right now. The terms people of colour, POC, and BAME, black and minority ethnic groups, are used to refer to a wider society of people who are not white. This includes Eastern Asian people. This includes South Asian people. This includes black people. But the Black Lives Matter movement is not about people of colour, and it's not about BAME people. It's about black people. If you are not a white person, but you are also not a black person like me, you are still responsible for making change. You're still responsible for supporting black rights. And yes, you too face discrimination, and yes, like me, I'm sure you all have your own stories of ways that you need progress to be made, but that is not the fight to fight right now. Black people are priority right now. Blackout Tuesday was a hashtag and a charitable campaign made by 3 leading music agencies where they were putting black screens up and not sharing their other content in solidarity to the Black Lives Matter movement. It is one day where they decided, and everybody was encouraged, to share their solidarity with a black square, to not use social media for other purposes, and to use that additional time to educate yourselves on black history, on black struggles, and on how to be a better ally to black people. If you put up a black square on your Instagram page but didn't sign a petition, but haven't considered donating, or watching one of the many videos out there which you can do for free whilst generating ad revenue for accounts that donate their money to all Black Lives Matter causes, you are not doing enough. If you are not reading about black people, if you're not having these conversations with your family and friends and loved ones to show and make sure that everybody is in line with your opinion that black lives are important and equality should exist for people regardless of their colour of the skin, you are not doing enough. Internet activism of showing a black square and doing nothing else is not enough. People who truly are willing to do better and make sure that this movement, that this striving for equality goes beyond this week, goes beyond this month, because trust me, this will die down. Something else will happen and social media will be all over that, and people will forget about George, and George will be another one of those statistics of black people who sadly pass away. George is more than that. Everybody who has died in vain because of racism is more than that, and it is our responsibility to carry on this conversation and make sure that that equality is found. We can all do more. You can donate to good causes. You can sign petitions that bring white police officers who have done bad things to black people unjustifiably to justice. You can sign petitions that stop horrific political actions that then force black people into going through experiences of covert racism. You can read and you can listen and you can watch black people talk about their experiences to try and empathise, because none of us will truly be able to understand the experience that a black person and the fear that a black person has to go through, particularly if they're in the United States. Most importantly, you can call out your loved ones, because no one else will do that to make that change. You might be the one who can stop racist jokes. You might be the one that can get people to confront their views by saying, actually, you know what? It's not that funny. You know what? Black people do deserve this just as much as a white person does. You know what? Sure, all lives do matter, but right now Black Lives Matter, so can you please stop using the All Lives Matter hashtag? You can use your privilege as a non-black person to help Black Lives Matter. I lied. The most important is to vote. You can vote in ways so that the powers that be can make the greater changes for us. Vote against the disgusting powers that claim to be nice but shower you with lies. And commit yourself to treating people in a way that brings equity, not equality, equity. Now, the concepts I've just spoken to you about in this video should not be a surprise to you. If you subscribe to me and you know my content, I'm assuming you are like-minded. I respect you, my following. I know you're not stupid. I know you are woke. I know you are aware. If you're not subscribed to me and you have heard everything that I've said in this video so far, if you still believe that white privilege does not exist, or that white lives matter, or all lives matter, and that that's more important than Black Lives Matter right now, you are not welcome on my platform. I now want to move on to some more contradictory comments, concepts, and commentaries that have been causing me stress and making me unsure about how to progress. And I would love it if you could share your views so we could share best practice and so I can learn how to best proceed. I want to make it abundantly clear that I am not of the anti-black nature. I am not in any way intending for any of my views or words that I say to go against any Black Lives Matter movement. Maybe there are no solutions or direct solutions to the concepts and commentaries that I'm about to talk about, but I think it's still important to address them and see if maybe there are more things that we can be doing to alleviate the confusion, my confusion. The first is about creators and content, and this is going to sound like such a small violin moment, tiny violin. I'm struggling with content creation, and I know a lot of other creators certainly are too, and I've been seeing a lot of creators, not just creators, but anybody with any form of platform, basically be told off, and I'm not entirely sure I can deduce what the right thing to do is. We have to continue making content, it's how we pay our bills. Of course, on a day of solidarity, like Blackout Tuesday, I didn't post, many people didn't post, I don't think you were wrong for not posting, and instead use that time to better educate yourself, right? But I've seen people not post and promote people of colour and have that be called an act of virtue that is meaningless. I've seen people post and be told that they're wrong to post because they should be focusing on Black Lives Matter. I went back and forward a lot and consulted a lot of different people to decide whether to even make this video, because doing so takes away from the voice of a black person, but at the same time I have people tagging me on platforms saying, why haven't you spoken about it? So I feel like there's no real way of winning, and perhaps that's the point. Having a platform means that you are accountable, means that you are just going to get this, and we just need to suck it up and deal with it. It's a very small violin, right? I feel like the same level of accountability doesn't exist, however, to people who don't have a job that involves using a public platform. My job as an office manager, basically, which is the roles that I carried out last year, meant that I could go in 9 to 5, not really see or hear anything about the Black Lives Matter movement, come back and then do what I needed to do on social media. But because our job is social media, I find it tricky to know what it is that I should be doing. Now seems like the best time to let you know that I put in links downstairs to black creators who you should also definitely be listening to and following and investing in, because they have fantastic things to say. But I've taken the stance that I should be talking about it to utilise my platform in some kind of way to help the movement. From next week, I'm going to continue posting my regular content that doesn't reference Black Lives Matter directly, but rest assured that doesn't mean that I'm not doing anything, it doesn't mean I've forgotten about it. I will still be doing what I can to learn about it, to immerse myself, to empathise, to have those call-out conversations, and to vote the right way, and I hope that you do too. This concept of calling people out, this concept of cancel culture, almost goes hand in hand with the point I've just made about creators and content. I've been called out online for being anti-black. Emma Watson's been called out for posting black squares that sort of fit her aesthetic. Jamie's been called out for not talking about it enough. I'm sure many creators, many people are being called out who are fundamentally good people and who are not trying to do things that are anti-black. And this is where the contradiction comes in. I want to stress these are my thoughts and opinions. I don't know what the right answer is. I see and accept that if someone's telling you how to do something better, you should do it. Especially if they are that person and you are not, you need to listen to that. For example, people posting a black square but then being told to not use the Black Lives Matter hashtag. Fine, fair, listen to that. You are clogging up good resources that are used with the Black Lives Matter hashtag. Use the Blackout Tuesday hashtag. Got it. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is Emma Watson posting 3 black squares. Those black squares, perhaps I've misinterpreted it, perhaps I don't quite understand, were to support the community, and Emma Watson has been a stand-up role model citizen for all people of diverse and minority nature, specifically for women, specifically of LGBT plus minorities, specifically of people of colour. And I find it frustrating and rather confusing that people are choosing to take the time to comment to people like Emma Watson, saying that doing 3 squares because the rest of her 3 squares shouldn't be done. It should just be 1 square. What does it matter if it's 3 squares or 1? She's showing solidarity. I just don't understand it. Hannah Witten posted a very lovely post, which I'm sure was done with the best of intentions, showing other people of colour and suggesting that her audience go and watch people of colour as opposed to watching her content right now because she wants to provide her platform for good. Yet many people took the time out to say this is very empty, and again I'm confused as to why the effort and time is being taken to target people like Emma Watson, like Hannah, when they are not racist, when they are not being anti-black, and when what they are doing, from what I can see, doesn't seem to be anti-black in any way. Surely that time should be spent towards people who are actually doing bad things, who are actually racist, who are actually saying negative things. I may be very wrong on this. I realise that I'm probably sounding very controversial. I truly just don't understand it, and I'd love it if someone could help me understand it. People like Zoe Sugg and Alfie Days, who have huge platforms and who, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far, are doing a lot to help educate their communities, a vast majority of which who are white, young, and easily influenced. And I think it's quite powerful to have people like that say things and show things like the Black Square in solidarity and show how to support that. Perhaps I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, please let me know how. But when I look at the comments through posts like that, I see them being attacked by people saying this is not right. You shouldn't have posted a square. And it just confuses me. I don't understand why the focus is going to people who are clearly trying to do good and in my opinion are not doing anything bad, when there are actually bad people out there doing bad things. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying feel sorry for us. I'm not saying feel sorry for Hannah or for Alfie or for Zoe or for anyone else. What I'm trying to emphasize is that the real enemies here are the politicians, are the police force, the corrupt system that is governing all of that is wrong in the US right now to do with race. People are dying, and I feel like the effort should be made to people who are causing that to happen, not people who are trying to stop that from happening. What can I take away from this? Overall, activism is not trendy. It is done with a sense of purpose, so please make sure that if you're calling people out, you're doing it for the right reasons. If I'm wrong, again, call me out. I get it. I get that talking alone doesn't get where you need to be. Sometimes being polite, being nice, it means being pushed over, and that's not very nice. It doesn't get you results. I get that the Stonewall movement, the LGBT plus movement, the exact grounds that my identity exists on, and the pride that we celebrate every single year originated from a very, very violent initial protest. I get that action is needed. I question whether violence is needed. I know that most people, 99.9% of people out there, including myself, I'll be protesting this weekend, are doing so peacefully. But at the same time, I also see and hear people protesting violently. I mean, I've got to be honest, I can't really say anything against that. These entire communities have faced actual violence that was completely unjustified their entire life. This feels kind of justified going back. I hate it. It hurts me to my soul when I see people saying that they are scared, that they are fearful, and people say to them, don't be scared, don't be afraid, be angry. I understand that, but this is my contradictory commentary, I guess. I don't understand that at the same time. I don't think it can be avoided. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen. I'm not saying it should happen, though. I don't really know how else to articulate that. Because who am I to tell a black person what they're doing is unjustified when they've faced even worse violence with much, much less, absolutely no justification at all? I'm not saying that. I'm not telling a black person that. I'm just saying that that's the difficult contradictory stance. Yes, protest, but also we are in the middle of a giant pandemic. An unprecedented pandemic of the likes that we have never seen before, where we have been in lockdown for a few months, and where, I don't know about you, but even me seeing groups of people in photos on Netflix shows gives me a sense of anxiety. It shocks me that when we are fighting a real enemy such as the coronavirus, COVID-19, we are still fighting with each other. I'm not saying that the fight shouldn't happen. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this revolution that the protests are should not take place. I'm just mad that they even have to exist in the first place. I've also seen people saying that you're not doing enough if you're not attending a protest, but I just want to shed light that sometimes it's not practical or very reasonable to request that of someone. I will use myself as an example. I haven't seen my family in nearly 3 months, and in some cases more than 3 months, mostly because of COVID-19. My grandpa is in hospital and I cannot wait to see him. I can't because he's currently in a hospital, but if he comes out tomorrow and I've gone to a protest, I can't see him because I would not be able to live with myself if I caught something and gave it to a vulnerable older person by then interacting with them after being in a big crowd during a pandemic. That's not to say that I'm not protesting, I'm just saying that is a contradictory thing within me that I'm struggling with throughout this movement. Grannies can't see their little grandchildren. My brother's just had a baby and I can't see her. And at the same time, there are huge groups of people protesting, and I get that it's needed. Again, I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen, but everyone will be lying if we say that that is not going to make the pandemic worse. It's just poorly timed. I'm not blaming it. And I also understand that there are tons of people who are contributing to what could be a second spike because more people have been going out to beaches with absolutely no good intentions whatsoever, no protest intentions, just because they are selfish, and that pisses me off. I'm not blaming the protests at all. It's just something that's playing on my mind. I am a person who is of the LGBT plus community. I'm with a person who's of the LGBT plus community. This community has been part of my life for many, many years. And I struggle when I see posts like the footage of Iana Dior. If you don't know, Iana is a black trans woman and she was beaten and hurt by black people themselves. Chased into a shop, they're told you're going to have to come out at some point. They wait for them. It's stressful and it's difficult because a large proportion of black people don't accept LGBT plus rights. I'm not equating my experiences with that of black culture. I'm saying I have a similar experience because my religion doesn't allow LGBT plus rights to be accommodated very well. It's something that's used against me all the time, and I find it difficult as a brown person to support a lot of brown rights when I see them being blatantly horrible and discriminatory to brown LGBT plus people. And so I can understand and empathise with the conflict that black LGBT plus people feel towards their community. Of course, that doesn't change anything about the fact that Black lives matter. Black lives still matter, but it also means that black trans women's lives matter, black trans, black LGBT plus lives matter as well, as an umbrella within that. The contradiction there is I feel like there are two things being fought for there that aren't really compatible with one another. But what is not contradictory at all is that Black lives still matter, and that being Black isn't the reason that these people are bad. It's the fact that they are not inclusive, and those don't go hand in hand. I also want to take this opportunity to link down below and give exposure to what Pride in London are doing right now, which is the act of an ally. They are wanting 30,000 acts of allyship towards the Black community, and if every single one of my subscribers did just one thing, writing a letter to an MP, donating, signing a petition, we would smash that goal immediately, and I am one person. Imagine the impact that can be made. I really strongly encourage you to also educate yourselves on Black LGBT+ people, and also see how you can support these subgroups within the Black community. Finally, police and Pride. I've been seeing a lot of commentary right now that says that police people cannot be at Pride events. People are suggesting that if police march in Pride parades, that they would be doing a bad thing. And I understand. I understand the hate towards the police, because the police have not, as a whole unit, been fantastic towards LGBT+ rights and Black Lives Matter rights. But the contradictory nature of this bit here for me is my experiences with police at Pride events in the past. Every year I look forward to seeing the police part of the parade. Having a police presence makes me feel safer, because the LGBT+ community is targeted against, brown people are targeted against, brown people within the LGBT+ community are incredibly targeted against, and so it's always worried me that showing up and supporting Pride and showing my own identity will make me a target. And yes, the police aren't fantastic, but to me having a police presence there feels better than nothing at all. And to me, seeing a group of police force who are either LGBT+ themselves or who are allies that are basically saying by attending, we don't mind that you're LGBT+, we're going to protect you regardless, we don't discriminate in that way, that makes me feel wonderful. I think back to last year where I saw two couples actually get engaged in the Pride Parade, two gay couples, and that was wonderful to see. And I guess what I'm saying is that the police force does have good eggs, and they do have LGBT+ people within, and it confuses me, this idea that police people shouldn't be at Pride, because if I was an LGBT+ police person, I would feel personally attacked by that. So that's another contradiction that I don't quite understand. I don't see how the two go hand in hand. I don't understand why the Black Lives Matter movement means that good police officers who are LGBT+ should not be marching in parades. I say I don't get it, I do get it. I do get that the most targeted and discriminated and murdered demographic are Black trans women. I do get that more often than not, Black LGBT+ victims, Black victims, don't get the justice that they deserve in any crime. I guess I struggle because I envisage in my mind the police officer, and I'm sure that they do exist even if they are a minority, a police officer who is LGBT+ friendly, who is Black friendly, and who is now unable to celebrate their own identity if they are LGBT+, and would be shunned for being part of Pride celebrations. Again, I don't have the answers to a lot of these commentaries. I wanted to put it out there for discussion, to hear best practice, and so that we can all learn to do better, including myself. I hope I haven't offended anyone with this video. That was not my intention. If I've angered you, I am truly sorry. Please let me know what I did wrong. I will not do it again. Anyway, that's it from me. This feels very dull for my kind of normal video style. I'm struggling to be happy in a time where everyone is very sad, and rightfully so. So do with that what you will. I hope you, if you're a non-Black person, are doing everything you can to be an ally. Please take a look at the resources that I've linked downstairs in the description box. If you are a Black person, I hope that you are feeling supported. We love you, you matter, I stand with you, I stand for you, and I know that if you look down in the comments, there'll be other sweet peas, part of this community, who are with you and for you too. So please, I hope you're not feeling too unsupported. Must be an incredibly difficult time right now. Right, as I said, I'm ending this promoting Black creators. I've listed a few Black creators downstairs in the description box that you can please take a look at. They are wonderful human beings. They are people I watch regularly, and I implore you to do the same. If you would like to recommend anyone else down below, please feel free to do so. That is it from me today. I will continue with normal scheduling as of next week. Be kind and have a great day. Bye.